Hope your Sunday is going well. I'm in Colorado, and today it's been a little cloudy, so it's a perfect day to kind of talk about this new future self experience that I'm sharing with you today. So we can get started. Thank you guys again. I'm so happy to have you. Thank you so much for supporting my work and being open to receiving this info. So I also want to say that you're probably not here by accident. You're here because your future self is calling you. And what does that mean? So I want you to understand that in my meditations and everything that I've learned and studied in meditation, that unless you feel your future right now in this moment, you will never feel it in the future. And so what does that mean? That means if you want to create a new experience, a new reality, you have to feel what that reality will be like in the present moment so you can feel that in the future. And that's basically the premise of all my experience in meditation, in spiritual teachers, and everything like that. In order for you to really understand how powerful you are, you have to understand manifestation. And whether you learn it by, you know, meditation or action, basically there's so many ways to basically learn how to manifest, but what it really comes down to is having the tools and the discipline to practice it. So if there's anything that you want new in your reality, unless you feel that heightened emotional state as if it was happening right now in this moment, you will never feel that in the future. You will continue to replay the subconscious patterns that you've installed into your neuronet. So I know there's a lot of people that talk about manifestation and your subconscious and all that stuff. But when you live in that subconscious, you're living in a program, in a loop. You're not aware of your programming. That's why it's called the subconscious. And that's where the majority of humanity and people live because they're not aware of the patterns they have in their life. Because did you know that most people operate from a neuronet that was developed in their 20s? And so, what that means is that no matter what you experience in life, you have the same patterns of thought. So, you experience the same relationships, but with different faces. You experience the same job, but with a different environment. And until you realize that and that you want it to change, the more that you will begin to suffer because you aren't facing the pain that you need to acknowledge and feel for you to expand. Because pain is what opens the ego shell so light can enter, so energy can enter, because it takes a lot of your energy to stay mediocre, to stay small, to stay in your patterns of thought and loops. So, knowing that there's also parallels to all your relationships and your work. So if you had a relationship before your 20s that really meant a lot to you, see how that pattern is happening in other relationships, in other aspects of your work. Like a good example would be, let's say that, like for me, I could give you an example. Um, just being adopted, I had abandonment issues. So I'd always have a fear that no matter who I was with, they couldn't unconditionally love me for who I am. And so it would end. And until I realized that probably in my mid 20s, then I stopped having relationships, started to work on myself and develop a new pattern of thought, a new heightened emotional state that then attracted me someone that was different than that. And in that, I then had a 9-year relationship. But then when you realize there's other things, other patterns that come up, then you have to realize that they come up in those experiences that you manifest in a relationship. For me, it was a relationship because that teaches me, excuse me, the most about myself. It teaches me who I am. So I had to let go that long relationship because it was teaching me a new pattern of mine that I wanted to change. And by letting that go, even though it was mutual, I then got more energy because it cracked that shell of mine to then realize that I needed to work on my confidence. I needed to work on my control or my like the way that I wanted to control people or see how my work in fashion was creating disposable content because I thought I was disposable. Let me have some coffee real quick. So then when I realized that and learned about the patterns of myself, then I had to change it. And that also empowered me to receive a lot of energy because then when that energy comes back or is being withheld from letting go, I then manifested like one of my biggest photo video jobs of like 60 grand. So once you realize those limitations that you have in your subconscious and you let it go, then you can experience a lot more energy that then experience it as a new job, a new environment. Like I moved from Brooklyn to Colorado. I left my comfort zone because I knew that's where I learned the most about myself. And you have to realize that when you're in your comfort zone, you're living in your old patterned neuronet. You're not experiencing anything new in your life because you're still repeating the same patterns, the same relationships, and you're perceiving the world in the exact same way. So until you work on that part of yourself, your inner world, then your outer world will just reflect those patterns, those limitations until you let that go. Believe that there's something more for you. Believe that there's more that you can experience in life once you get out of that comfort zone of the ego. And being alone is the best way to become aware of these patterns of thought because if you're always with someone and you're not aware of them reflecting a part of you or even your reality and you're being bombarded with people, places, things, times, events that distract you from working on yourself, then you never enter the unknown. You never seek a new adventure. And most of the time, those patterns don't change because you don't give yourself that time to reflect, to meditate, and to feel new emotions. And I'm sure that everyone has experienced being around a kid or animals. They don't have those limitations unless they're programmed with it from their childhood, from how animals are treated. They're always loving. So if there's aspects of nature that you aren't behaving in that way of that unconditional love for yourself and others, then you've been programmed. Then you're living in a neuronet that was given to you rather than you being aware of the choice that you have to choose it or not. You know, a lot of my life has been people trying to project their limitations on me. And I feel because of that, I've had the courage from my experience in sports to be like, you're wrong. You know, you live in a limited negative mindset. And not that they're bad people, they're just limited. So I've always been able to see where people's neuronet is controlling them because of my experience in sports. Like when I was in middle school and high school, I played football, baseball, gymnastics, almost went to state, and I was on varsity team as a sophomore because I was like 5'5", we're playing with huge people, and everyone's like, "You're not gonna survive," and I was like, "But it's fun for me. I love playing it, so I'm gonna do my best until I realize there's no future, and then try something else here." So I always use that psychology of sports to work with people because you want to you want to be on a team and people around you that root for you, that believe in you, that, when and be vulnerable enough when they're not being their best to be like, support me, and help me, become more. So that's basically what I've experienced in my life to help me realize this about myself and other people. And most of the time, you just need a tool. If you don't have that support system and you don't have that encouragement from within, then most of the time your ego is going to be defensive and denial that you need to change. Those are the defensive mechanisms that everyone projects when they're being confronted with their limited negative programming. And until you break that down, become vulnerable enough to say, like, I could be doing better. I'm not passionate enough about my life. I'm not living to my full potential, then you're going to be in denial. You're going to just be defensive and you're going to treat everyone like they're a villain or like an asshole or someone that isn't respecting you when really they're just showing you that you're not respecting yourself enough to create the life of your dreams or to live in a more passionate, fulfilled life. And so you have to realize that that personality that you have is a program. That personality is the way that you see things in duality, good and bad, me versus you, us versus them, women versus men, left versus right. In politics, if you're in that matrix of duality, then you're still living in a programmed neuronet. You're still living in fear. And so it's that neuronet is formed and locked in by the age of 20 and then repeated from culture in your traumas and having the same negative experiences because you're not aware of it. And so most people unknowingly live out that same patterns, which you can experience as emotions mentally and relationally, that you're not having new emotions, new heightened, happier emotions, and you're stuck in that fear. And that fear is just a program. It's you telling you that I'm limiting my energy from feeling the full experience of life because of something I experienced in my 20s or earlier. And so your mind just repeats it. That's the matrix. But your soul is the one that's craving for evolution. And if you're repeating these patterns, you're not creating. Excuse me, I think got to sneeze here. Woo. That was a good one. So if you're just repeating patterns and you're not creating anything new in your life, then you have to realize that you've been programmed with the personality of lack of your ego, which is the matrix. And when you're living in fear, that lowers your frequency and blocks your creativity, which is your thought patterns. If you're not having new thoughts, you're not being creative. You're not using your imagination and full potential to create the life that you want. And you can do that just by imagining it and feeling that heightened state of emotions as if it was happening right now in this moment. Because then when you start doing that, you know that you're creating your future because you're feeling it right now. That's how you create a new future. Because if you're not creating that new feeling and not operating from that new place of heightened emotion, you will never experience it in the future. You will continue to experience the same thing over and over again. The lack of love, the imperfect health, the paranoia, the fear, that's all this matrix. And that's only held in because of these beliefs, the emotional addiction to these chemicals of lower states of consciousness, and this identity to a story that you keep repeating in your head. And when that happens, because of fear, it breaks down your DNA. You start to age. You have emotional stagnation where you don't have any new experiences. You think in scarcity and you chronically overthink about everything. And you live in that matrix of thought of syntax because there's no new operating system. Because and that fear is the outdated software of that operating system, but you are the coder of this operating system. And you have to start doing that intentionally by raising your energy up, by feeling these new heightened states of emotions, by upgrading your frequency, because then reality will match that. And like you have to realize how powerful you are because every person, place, thing, time, and event, you create it. So if you believe a certain person is going to be a certain way to you, you create that. As hard as that might be to conceive, you created that. You put that in your field. So you're experiencing that outside of you. So that's why I always say expect the best out of people, expect the best out of yourself. Focus on your frequency because that everything will just match that outside of you. Don't focus on the details. Like make it general about your life. Like I feel great today. Something amazing is going to happen to me rather than the drama and gossip that your ego wants to project onto you, then keep you in that old neuronet. And so you can rewire your brain with this new experience I call the future self experience. This is created because a friend told me basically from my meditations that I kind of help people create that new future identity in the now, so they experience that future emotion state, knowing that they will experience it in the future. But then it's hard to do that personally on a consistent basis. So then I was like, maybe I should use all my creative talents and skills to, in meditation, creativity, spirituality, neurobiology, and quantum physics to ground people with a tool that you can watch anytime you want to help raise your frequency, to keep you in that heightened emotional state where you feel great about your life. You know, by observing your past, you can then use that energy to upgrade your future. So I've done a couple, I'm working on two of these right now for some friends of mine to show them the power of it. And again, these are very private, so I can't really share them with you because it's a very personal film. It's taking whatever they've experienced in the past, learning about that old neuronet, and then generating and creating the new script, the new emotional state they need to feel to transcend and transmute that old neuronet into a new neuronet. And that's how you can experience a new reality, by not just visualizing and making it a fantasy, but creating a new biological signal that matches a new timeline. And by repeating this new script, by feeling these new feelings, you'll start to experience that change in your reality. I created a one for a film. A friend of mine gave it to her on Monday, and the amount of money she wanted to make per day after she watched that Monday, she made that for the next 3 days. That's how powerful it was. And she also experienced shifts in her reality that just happened because she just watched herself. I also created, there's two packages, one with video and one with photos. For her, I did the photos where she sees herself in the film in the new reality and hears her script of this new reality, and things began to happen to her overnight. So I know this works because I've done it in my own meditations, what I offer to people. And now that's proving that it's real because my friend of mine is already experiencing that shift. And again, it's not just watching the film, but her taking the action to believe it, to concentrate her energy on that new timeline and script. And those new emotional states create that new frequency of wealth, health, and love. And for her journey is for her to move across the country and within a short amount of time. And so I wanted to create this so she can access that new timeline easier in a more abundant and fulfilling way than the fear that she was in prior to it. So it's about a 4.5 minute film. It's going to be different for everyone depending on their story, whether it be 3 to 6 minutes. That's kind of the general length I want to create it as, because I use all the information in the intake session about everything in your life up until now to understand your full neuronet, which is it's kept private, very confidential. Nothing is shared. And then I create a new script based on that old neuronet, that old script, and help you start living in that new neighborhood of your neuronet, the one that you're always wealthy, the one that you're never sick, the one that you're always healthy, the one that you're attracting people in your life that benefit you, that support you, because you can live any reality you want by living in that new neighborhood. And as hard as that is to maybe believe to some people, is like, I've always lived in a neuronet where I'm always healthy. I never got COVID. I never experienced any big sickness in my life, only when I was a teenager in mono, because I felt like I had to experience the negative aspects of the pharmaceutical industry, where they gave me these horrible pills that gave me horrible angina that like took away the feeling in my heart and just like crushed it. And ever since then, I've never trusted the pharmaceutical industry or any kind of therapy where they give you a pill for a solution, because I just don't trust it now. So now, in my experience and in this work, I live in a neuronet where I'm always healthy. I don't age, well, at least I'm not trying to. I want to live to like my full potential, 750 to 1,000 years if possible. I live in that neighborhood and that neuronet because I want to prove that these spiritual teachings that I read from masters and my mystery school teacher, that it's real. When I first moved to Brooklyn, I needed to raise at least $10,000 just to move in. I repeat this story a lot, but it's super powerful because you need first month, last month, security deposit, and broker's fee. And then I need another 15 grand for new furniture, new everything. So I lived in a neuronet where I started repeating to myself heightened emotional states where I was living, where I already had $25,000 to do that. And after 6 months of kind of not intentionally really focusing on it, but just like starting to practice it, meditating every day, being in a joyful state so I could receive that abundance. I literally got a call from Saks Fifth Avenue on a Friday. They wanted me to come in do a shoot on Wednesday and met with them on Monday, 2 days to shoot. And they told me their budget was $25,000. So anything is possible when you understand the power of living in a new neuronet by consciously rehearsing and living like the actor, actress, where you are already that character experiencing that fulfillment of your desire. And so this film, this new experience that I'm offering, is a tool to help you transform your life that's made customized to your neuronet to help you move into your new neighborhood of neuronet where everything you desire is real. And as crazy as that might sound, it's I've been able to prove it with the first one I did, my own life, and what I help guide people in guided meditations. Because I think a lot of people struggle with using their imagination, sitting down, using your imagination to create a new hologram of a new reality that you want to experience and to feel those emotions all the time. I think a lot of people struggle with that. So then I'm like, I can create a tool where you can ignite your imagination by seeing yourself in a new reality and then embed it into your code, into your new neighborhood. And then so that's always replaying in your head because you felt it in this tool. I also put music to it, customized to you, what you like and what emotionally moves you. So also when you listen to it, you feel that new reality. You feel that emotional state. And it might be at first very powerful where it triggers your old neuronet, because that's the thing that I realized that every time you want to live in a new neighborhood, your old neighborhood and neighbors want to scream at you and yell at you to stay. They don't want you to move. They want to, pick apart your weaknesses to then trigger you to stay. And you just have to realize that because there's ways that it will find your weaknesses, whether it be, staying at a comfort like a job you don't like, you'll get a raise or something. You're going to be tested to stay somewhere that that doesn't fit with you. But if you trust your intuition and your gut to believe in this new neuronet and this new frequency of that heightened emotion, you'll know exactly what to follow and feel if it's not a right fit for you. Some personal things might change in your life. And again, these are just warnings to you because I rather let you know up front what the transformation process is, because you're gonna have to let go people, places, things, time, events. They're no longer a part of your new neuronet. And that might be scary to people. But in the end, that letting go process will make you feel so free, so much more abundant and clear on what you're here to do. And basically that's the full process of enlightenment, is change. Because once you realize you have the power to change your program of your lack ego neuronet of limitation and let it all go into your new neuronet where that doesn't exist, then you become enlightened. You ascend. That's the process. That's what every great movie is about. That's what the villains represent in Star Wars, in Lord of the Rings, in Harry Potter. Most of the time people just fight this limited inherited mindset instead of just letting it go, realizing that you have to lose. You have to allow it to overcome you so you can be vulnerable and not need it anymore because you realize that it's a program, just like in the Matrix. When Neo just lets go and says, "You're right," to Agent Smith, because by fighting that ego construct, you play its game. You stay in this reality. And a beautiful, most amazing movie that explains this is the new Mission Impossible films. Have you seen Dead Reckoning? And then the last one, I think, is Final Reckoning. I forget what it's called. Uh, but basically, it describes how there's this entity, this AI entity, that is now controlling the world and their lives. We live in that world, the ego world. And I always say the mind of the ego is AI because it's just a program. It's installed limited neuronet of lack. And so when you see that film and they're talking about the entity, that's the ego. We live in this ego world that we're experiencing its controls, its limitations. And until you realize that its job and its program is to limit everyone, to keep people fighting, to do things that are conflicting to people instead of in harmony. So when you watch the new one, The Final Reckoning, I'm not ruining any spoilers because it's just the basic premise of the villain, is that in order to defeat it, you have to be outsmarted. You have to live in a neuronet that is beyond that program, which is beyond the lack, limiting, controlling, negative beliefs. And you can feel that in your body when it restricts you, the fear. And so when you realize there's this entity inside of you that is doing that on a consistent basis, the reason why it's called Mission Impossible because most people can't exit it. That's how impossible it is. Only about like 5 to 10% of humanity ascends. They release that old neuronet and enter the new one of bliss, happiness, and joy, and then they ascend this reality. They exit the matrix. But that's why I love those Mission Impossible films because Tom Cruise is a living embodiment of someone realizing they're in that program, but doing using their full potential and full intellectual ability to know, to be aware that that exists and to do the opposite of what they think they should do, to keep people alive that you care about. That's like his main thing, that there's no bigger mission than saving his friends. And that's like the most beautiful part of that movie because there's nothing that he will do to protect people that he loves because the whole idea of an entity of the AI ego mind is the opposite of that, to make you believe that they're going to die or that they can survive. Basically, you'll have to do whatever you have to have the mindset intent that you'll figure it out. Everything's going to work out, no matter how impossible it sounds. So I highly recommend that movie to help you understand more about this inherited AI ego mind and to help you see the visual representation and metaphor of it as a physical object outside of us in reality. That's why we are all experiencing AI right now because it is a projection of frequency of our own ego mind and how it controls and limits us. That's why I did a script about or a skit about how, if ChatGPT was a person. Yes, it might be able to provide tools and things to help you in your life, but in the end, it's creating dependence, psychological control, and basically taking away your own inner voice from believing in yourself. You pick a lazy solution in a chat GPT bot to tell you how to live. You need to give yourself permission to live. But there is an aspect that it can be used as good. It can benefit you, but just don't let it take any power away from you. Don't depend on it. Use it as a tool, just like, anything else, like a guitar or instrument. Just know that you're the one behind it all, and feeding it. So just feed it what you want as a tool for you. And to summarize again, like this whole future self experience is that you can do this on your own. You don't need a tool. You don't need me. I'm just offering a powerful tool to benefit the change that you're seeking in your life without someone scamming you or without paying, a ridiculous amount of money for a course when all this exists inside of you. All I'm doing is providing you a tool. Like if you wanted to play a sport and you wanted to get really good at something, I'm just providing you a tool that'll help you engage the discipline and practice to keep you at that new neuronet. Because it's very easy to slip. It's very easy to forget your power. It's very easy to just settle for less. But if you really want more and understand that your future self is not just a dream, it's actually a memory from the quantum field. And you can access that anytime you want. You can access that future memory where you're always wealthy, you're always healthy, you're abundant and in love, but you have to start creating it from within. And this tool will do that for you. So, again, the product includes a personalized meditative film of a new frequency to keep you in that new state of being in that quantum field. The custom voiceover script that you'll record and say to yourself. So when you watch it, it's like you're hearing from your future self telling you this is where you're going. Because that's the most powerful part. That when you hear it, that you start to instantly your mind is like, I'm there. Um, and by seeing this neurovisual storytelling, the way that you practice imagination and meditation, you're seeing it in your waking life, it'll start programming your subconscious into that. So it has this like feedback loop that's 24/7 instead of you just imagining and playing it in your mind and then opening up and kind of being stuck in this reality. So then you have a tool that you can watch anytime you want. It's basically like a upgrade for your life to just able to experience something psychically and practice your psychic power and gifts that create your new reality. And the only upgrade is the first package is with just images, so you see yourself, but in very customized cinematic imagery. Um, and then the other one is that you see it in video in motion form, which that only just it just takes more time, so I charge a little bit more for that. But some people don't mind with the images, but I could see some people's like, I want to see it move. I want to see the whole cinematic journey like a film. So I do use AI, but all the prompts and content is kept private. Uh, and they're available to you to use. I give it to you. You know, you can create a vision board with them. You can use them for whatever you want. But basically, I'm not responsible for what you do with them after I give you the film, the images, and the voice recording. I'm also not responsible for how it, will transform your life. I mean, that's up to you. But I do warn you that there will be changes in your life. And some of it might not feel great, but that's the transformation process of letting go of something that doesn't serve you anymore. That's your old neuronet releasing the neurons. So you feel this new energy to attach to new neurons, and you experience that as emotional pain. That's the full process, scientifically, neurobiologically, and spiritually, of why we experience emotional pain. So that's why whenever you see a movie with some new, sad, not really traumatic, but a very emotional experience of a character, that's the whole process of them letting go this old mind so they can experience a new mind. That's why, Kylo Ren and Darth Vader represent that old mind of pain, of lack. So that's why both those characters don't believe in them. They only believe in the good. They see the good in them. Ray even kisses him that because they portray the love that is outside of that neuronet. And then that mind disappears. It transcends this reality. And so that's why you experience that emotional pain. And it's for a good reason. That's how you crack the ego open. So light can enter and you exit this egg, the matrix of this reality. Because until you do that, you're going to keep reincarnating over and over again. So you have to feel that pain so you can grow. It's like in nature, you see there is always a process of growth. Something has to die for something new to happen. So that old part of you will die spiritually, just meaning your neuronet has to die so you can create a new one. And like I said, it helps you rehearse the new identity like an actor. So you can become a new identity where you are wealthy, where you are happy, you are healthy. Um, it will trigger elevated emotions, ones you haven't felt in a while, or continue to feel those elevated emotions where you are successful, where you are happy and you are unconditional loving to everything and all beings. And again, it'll collapse that old neuronet. So you can align to abundance, joy, love, and creativity. Because you have to understand the full law of attraction is you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. So right now you're attracting everything based on your frequency. No matter what desire you have, if you're not happy, then you're not going to get a happy reality. So you have to just become aware of that. That's a whole awakening process. And it feels like it's not fun at first because you have to purge all these negative things you thought and believed about yourself. And without support, um, it's very hard to do because you've just been subconsciously living like a robot in this personality that believes in lack about everything. So once you choose to have that decision to choose this new reality you want, this future self, nothing's going to happen. You have to choose it. You have to discipline yourself. You have to coach yourself to stay in that new heightened state. No matter what happens, it's like Mission Impossible. Believe in the best, no matter how impossible it may sound. Always know that there's, excuse me, a solution, because deep down your soul remembers who you are. And until you feel that heightened state of emotion from your soul, you're operating from that NPC AI, negative ego mind neuronet. Because everyone really doesn't have a soul. It's not in their body because this egg is protecting them in this neuronet of lack. And once you activate your soul, you start to create something new. The soul is what creates these new heightened emotions, this new emotional state of a new reality. And that's the only thing that exists outside of this neuronet. That's why when you see a film and it moves you and it has a soul, that's the expression of your soul. It's creative. It doesn't copy people. It does something new and original. So this film will help you tap into that energy and bring it online. Um, and I want to talk about this because if you're interested in this, I'm offering a huge discount for first time customers about this because I really want to help people with this, but I also know that it's a long process. It's a 2-3 hour intake session. We dive deep into your personal, professional, and financial, and basically anything that you want to share, that you want transformed. Because a lot of people don't understand that, yes, you might want to make new money, more money, but there's something deeper behind that programming or that desire that's keeping you back from that. So we need to talk about that. We can't just talk about, oh, I want to make new money. I want to make more money. Let's just talk about why I have limiting money programming. It's much deeper than that. Excuse me, got a burp. So, um, so yeah, if you have any questions, you can email me about it. Um, I'm gonna start them off depending on what you want in it. If it's video, they're 1,500 and stills is 1,000. But again, if you're gonna be one of my first time people, I want to give you a huge discount on it, depending on where you're at. I also have payment plans. The only reason that it's at that level because the 2-3 hour intake session, I have to go through that multiple times and then create a new script, which then you have to record and send to me. And then I have to create a film from scratch that's customizable to your new neuronet. So that means all the images, the music, the the storyline, and the frequency. So again, that might sound a little pricey to some people, but I guarantee you it's worth it. And again, if you're wanting to do one with me, I can offer payment plans and a huge discount, at least 20% off for the first ones. And it's proven to work. Um, so that's pretty much all I wanted to share with you guys. Hopefully, this is of interest to you. Again, you can email me with any questions. Um, join my membership so you can experience the same process in a guided meditation. But this future film is just deeper. It goes in through all your old personality so you can go create a new personality and start living in that new neuronet. Um, and from my experience, I can, from everything I've learned from my mystery school teacher, my experience in sports, from my experience as a fashion photographer and building my intuition, being a creative, like in photography, if you don't have a vision for the way an image is going to come out and you just wildly kind of do a shoot without understanding how your soul feels and experiences reality, it's really hard to exit that ego mind because fear is such a powerful program that it keeps people stuck forever. And I just want to give you the inspiration, motivation, and hope that it's just a program, that no matter what you want to experience in life, if you can learn to let go of that and have the unwavering faith in yourself and the universe and God and existence, that you will always be taken care of, and take that leap of faith, I guarantee you your life will be amazing. You don't also need to create a life where you're a celebrity or a popular on social media to have an amazing life. Like that's the matrix still. You know, you can be happy with a very comfortable life and not need anything outside of you. And when you start needing nothing from outside of you to make you happy, then you've experienced the full spiritual journey, because you know that you are the creator of your reality. And you can only experience that by taking that leap of faith and exiting that old neighborhood. Move into a new reality where fear doesn't exist, and feel that pain of the mind, because the mind is like being adopted. You have this entity inside of you that has abandonment issues, that has never felt unconditional love. um, and once you start hearing that program in your head, you can understand that it just needs love. You just need to see the good in it. Be like, no matter what it says to you, be like, you can do it. We can do this together. You don't have anything to worry about. Everything's going to be okay. Then that part of your mind will start to disintegrate because you've dissolved it with your own love for yourself. And because I'm adopted, I know what that's like. So I can fully, I have the parallel experience of that mind. So I know how to be aware of it and choose the new emotional state to help my mind overcome the fear. And that's basically, I feel like, my destiny in life, because no matter what I've experienced in my past, it's taught me the same thing. You don't need anything outside of yourself to experience love, to experience unconditional love. Because I don't know anything about my adoptive family. The family I do have is amazing. They love me. Um, but I felt always that inherited negative mindset of being abandoned, and then being like, how can you live from that place, that emotional place? So I know you guys can all relate when you watch any animal getting rescued and seeing that frightened old neuronet state of being, and then seeing it transform with patience, love, and belief. That's like your mind transforming itself, exiting that negative, traumatized reality into a new one. So that's basically the full experience of this film, is seeing that your mind needed to be rescued. It has trauma. It has this personality of fear. And then this film, by watching it, you build the patience, the understanding of your old personality, uh of that rescue animal, and then showing it a new reality and then experiencing it in your own mind. So then it starts to happen, and then you see the energy returning to you. You see the soul waking up. You see this new personality of abundance, wealth, happiness, prosperity, joy, and bliss. And then you become free from anything that doesn't serve you. And you'll be tested just on what you believe that you deserve in terms of limited realities and beliefs about yourself. But once you have a film to be able to show you the new frequency that you want to live in, it's going to be very easy to make those choices in your life, to let go anything that's like, you're not serving me. You're not going to exist in my new reality because it's just a hologram that you are attaching yourself to, that you're creating. It's not as real as you think. So once you're able to understand the power that you have inside, that you're living in your own virtual reality, and you've created this matrix that you're not aware of yourself because you believe in certain ways that you should be treated, start to let it go. Start to see that mindset is like a rescue animal, and that you just need to be more patient with yourself. You need to discipline and be comforting and nurturing and loving, so that mind just dissolves and you can live in that new neuronet. You'll start to feel better about yourself. You'll trust yourself more and believe in this new reality like it's like being a kid again, because it's like you're getting toys every day. It's like Christmas every day. Could you imagine that? Like you're living in a fairy tale. So that's the where that new neuronet lives and exists in. Um, so I highly recommend you to take a moment today to close your eyes, feel the version of you who is already experiencing this new neighborhood that you want to live in. What do they look like? How do they talk? How do they walk? And then lead your life in that new state of consciousness. And try and see if you can do that for a full hour, for a full day, for a full week. And then if you need a tool, I'm here for you. I can help you with that. But again, you don't need anything outside of you to do this. It's all within you. So just practice what that new state of consciousness would be like if you already were it, because that's how you create the future. You're not going to create anything happier, more exciting, more abundant unless you feel that right now. That is the only way you can create that new future reality. So I just want to say thank you guys so much again for supporting me, listening to this call. Again, if you have any questions, email me at billy@FIFTY8magazine.com or info@FIFTY8magazine.com. Join my 58 membership, so you can experience these weekly guided meditations on Wednesday nights and these bi-weekly sessions on Sundays that are also live on YouTube that are free. But basically, you're just paying for these guided meditations, so I can support you on your new transformative journey. And if you want to experience something more powerful as a tool for more discipline, check out my future self film experience at 58magazine.com and email me at any time for more questions. I'm here for you. I want the best for you, and I'm here to serve. So again, thank you guys so much again, and I hope you guys have a beautiful rest of the weekend.